All right, so we got the real estate A-team in the house. Diane, VANCE, Fairway Independent Mortgage, all things lending. William CROWLEY, the credit man, the credit magician on the show, all things credit. And we got Ray Hall Appraisals, all things valuations and appraisals for real estate, vacant land, commercial. You even did some some citrus trees a while back you told us about.
I did a very large citrus grove once. That was a very interesting assignment.
Yeah. So let's start there. You know, when you look at valuing properties, I was just mentioning I had interesting this past week. I had one. It was kind of set up where there's a lot of rentals. There's some rooms in there. They call it a hostel where you can rent. You got bunk beds in there. I can get a certain amount of money for that bed. That bed I can get a certain amount of money. So they look at the asset and, hey, how many people can I get into this property and have moderate to low income? So you've got an income approach, but then also it's close to downtown. So you're close to Ybor, you're close to downtown. You've got interstates going by. It's literally right by the major interstate there. I think it's I-4 or 275-1. So you've got all these potentials for development, and a lot of times the owners think, "Wow, I'm sitting on a gold mine here,"
Right.
But you've got if they're going to develop it, they got to tear it down, they got a demo cost, they got to rezone in a lot of cases. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about rezoning and that maybe that particular asset I just mentioned.
And that's where a lot of people make their mistake is they look at it and they say, "Well, I'll just get it rezoned. We'll just get a rezoning, and I can put a skyscraper on it or something."
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is rezoning isn't as easy as it sounds, especially if you want to transition that property into a more intensive use. So you have a property that has maybe some rentals. Now maybe they're thinking, well, we can put a whole apartment complex.
Yeah.
If we just get it rezoned.
Right.
Well, now you have to go down to the zoning board for that municipality.
Yep.
And I've done it before, and you sit in front of them.
Yep.
And for instance, if you're in a bunch of single-family homes and you're wanting to put an apartment complex and you have to get a rezoning, they're going to look at it and say, well, there's no other apartments here.
Yeah.
The way zoning works is it kind of comes in. It may come from downtown and work its way over, but you're not going to be right in the middle of that block and all of a sudden have the most intensive use on the block.
Right.
Also, future land use designations come into that. You're not going to be any more intense than what that future land use allows, and a lot of people don't know about that. And the commercial side, we deal with that a lot, especially when we're doing vacant land. But when folks just have a residential property, they don't realize there's a lot more tied to it and a lot more tied to a rezoning than, hey, this is a great idea that's going to make me money.
Well, first off, too, you have to be able to have the consideration for the rezoning. You have to have your architectural plans. You got to have all that in place. Am I correct?
Yeah. There's a lot to do.
So that's money up front.
Yep.
To do that, just to maybe get a no.
And you may need to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's money. I mean, there's a lot going on in the background.
Yeah.
That, when I do, say, a cost approach for a commercial property, it's a lot more than what you see on an appraisal report for a house.
Right.
And, we take into consideration things like architectural fees, entrepreneurial incentives,
rising
lawyers,
cost of materials.
That's very important.
Yep.
Or external influences, things like that. There's so much involved, and there's so much involved in valuing real estate that a lot of people don't see. That's why it's funny to me when someone tells me appraisers don't know what they're talking about. They said my house was this and they said my house was that, but you don't realize there's so much going on than just the house up the street that was twice the size of yours that sold, and now you think it's worth that much money.
Yeah.
So there's all things that we have to learn in real estate and how it impacts those properties.
Yeah. Ray Hall's here in studio with us. Brandon Rhymes here, your host. When you look at the misconceptions, let's start there, because I love to grab these misnomers and kind of turn them into something that makes sense for people. What are some of the other misnomers? Just in valuation in general, what do you see, and maybe even for the zoning side, if you want to stay topical?
Well, probably the most popular one I get is, it cost me this much, so my house value went up by this much.
Right.
And you probably hear it all the time too in your end. Yep. That's not the case.
Here, I got a button for that.
Come on, man.
All right, what else you got?
Zoning again. They think it's a simple task.
Yeah.
And another thing they don't realize is not only does the zoning board have to approve it, but a lot of times there's a hearing.
Yeah.
And your neighbors are going to show up.
Exactly. That's a big one.
And I've known people who had I know someone who has a lot on State Road 54,
Yep.
trying to get it rezoned for commercial use,
Yep.
and it goes to hearing, and the neighbors show up and say no.
I've had it happen to me.
Yeah.
I've had it happen to me.
So
Like,
you know.
I mean, I had a big sale. It was a multi-million-dollar sale. They're going to put assisted living facility in, and okay. First of all, where do we put our aging demographics? Right. It was a nice equestrian style, and so if everybody has this not in my backyard mentality, what are we going to do? They have to live somewhere, and then they say, oh, well, there's going to be more traffic on the road. Well, last time I checked, people that are in ALFs, they're assisted living. They're not driving sports cars up and down the road all day long, or big F-250s with the big, exhaust going wah wah wah. So there, people at some point need to say, hey, where do our baby boomers, where does our older generation live in their golden years?
Yeah, but the problem is people are going to say that's fine, just not here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they do. I want to go to Diane and get Diane's take on that as well. Diane Vance.
Yeah, it's so a lot of people are so we could do mixed use, not the senior living, but we definitely need something for our seniors. And I think you're right, Brandon, where people think, oh, put it in another neighborhood, not mine. Go ahead and do that.
Yep.
Keep it there. But we can do. We look for residential, but we depend on our appraisers. So I was just talking earlier about, downtown St. Pete, like on Fifth Avenue or something like that. You may have some mixed use properties where, let's say, a mechanic has a garage in his back of his house, and we do allow that type of stuff. But if an appraiser comes and said, hey, this is a better use to be a commercial zoning or commercial real estate, then we depend on our appraiser to tell us what is the highest and best use of that property. And a lot of times they'll come back and they'll tell us that, but sometimes they come back and say, yeah, there's a lot of mixed use in the area. So, those type of things are come up on from the appraiser side.
Yeah, highest and best use. How does that come in on the appraisal side, Ray?
Oh, that's required in every appraisal. There has to be a highest and best use analysis.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Residential, we have a little spot on the form. With mine, I do give a larger explanation, so it actually goes over into the addenda. But we basically have to say what is the physically possible, legally permissible, and maximally productive use of the property.
That's interesting.
And so you get to the legally permissible. That's basically zoning and future land use.
Yeah.
Which most single family homes, it's a single family home.
Yeah.
And then financially feasible is if the property was vacant, is it feasible to build a house on it?
Right.
So in other words, we have the cost of the land, the cost of the construction. Is it worth what homes are selling for in that area? Mm-hmm. So if you buy the land, you build the house, it's cost you $200,000, but all the houses in the area that are the same size and everything else are $50,000. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an over improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
And that might not be the highest and best use.
I was explaining functional obsolescence this week to a client, and we're looking at going on the market. And I was just talking about and they understood. They said, "Wow, yeah, we get it. We kind of see that our house is older. It has the lower ceilings. The stairwell could have maybe been done a different way." Mm-hmm. So you get into what we call that functional obsolescence as well. If you just joined us, we're talking with Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage. We've got Ray Hall here in studio, Ray Hall Appraisals, and William CROWLEY on the phones. William, did you want to add anything to what we've been discussing here the last couple minutes?
No, I think it covered it pretty good. Of course, I'm not an expert in that industry, but it sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah. When you get into zoning and stuff, that's a little outside of what you're doing. But yeah, overall, just general when you look at the market, one of the things I just see that could potentially hurt us here coming up is the increase in minimum wage. Less buyers may be qualifying for some of these properties. Small businesses may be being affected going out. I guess if you ask the certain experts, they're saying there's no doubt some small businesses are going out. Some jobs are going to be lost. Automation, instead of asking the clerk to make the deal, it's going to be a computer talking to you. Autonomous vehicles. So when we come back, I want to just explore that conversation with our experts here in studio. How do you think the increase in the minimum wage may affect the real estate market, the market in general, and employment, the employment sector here as well. So stay with us right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Diane Vance, more from William Crowley and Ray Hall here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Plus our feel-good story of the day coming right up after this break. 70-year-old man rows across the Atlantic Ocean and raises $1 million for Alzheimer's research. Stay with us. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. For more information, go to consumerqb.com.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.